5:05.
Okay.
You can be amazed. Wednesday, August 14th. I call the legislative committee meeting to order at 1 Center Street, Chatham, Virginia. Roll call.
Mrs. Scarce?
Here.
Mr. Barber?
Here.
Mr. Farmer?
Here.
Now, I also know that we have Mr. Davis, Dr. Miller, Mr. Blackstock, and Mr. Warren in attendance.
Do we have any revisions or additions to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, do I have an approval for the agenda?
So move.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay. 5A, new business. Mr. Slim, running at large restrictions in designated areas.
In your packet, you've got two sections. One says 5A, one says 5B, so turn to 5A. And Mr. Slimp is in charge of animal control, so he'll be leading the discussion, and I'll jump in when appropriate.
Thank you. All right, so we've been looking at the running at large restricted areas and how we can improve that based on some, as you know, some requests we had recently for some of these areas. And Babe and I kicked around along with Susan, our Chief Animal Control Officer, kicked around some ideas on how we could improve that and probably make that a little more amenable to today's society. And what we've recommended is that we change it to where you'd have to have, instead of a majority of property owners, you'd have to have 75% of property owners in the grants. It would also be restricted to basically an R1 zone subdivision. So that takes out the agricultural areas, which I don't think that was ever intended to be anyway, truthfully. And the way we would count property owners is one person per property shall be counted towards the percentage. The petitioner would have to pay for any and all advertising costs associated with having a public hearing. If it is approved and the area is designated, then the petitioner would also pay for the cost of no dog run at large signage that goes up. We think this was probably the most simplest fixes to change this little bit of language, and I believe we get more into the intent of what this is really meant for in the first place.
Right, and this sheet that's further on in this section, these are the 8 things that the board asked us to try to incorporate into this. We thought this was the simplest way. This 75%, that's the thing we came up with. You can tweak that. Is that too high? Is that too low? We just felt that 50.1% of owners, we don't think it was the intent of the board to bind the whole neighborhood. We also, if you recall, the last issue that since has resolved itself, it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back as such. It was trying to attempt to do a no dogs running large in a strictly rural agricultural area. And so we thought that the intent of this ordinance had gotten a little far afield. You agreed, you asked us to bring something back, so we brought this back to you. All we're looking for you today is, are we on the right track? If you like it, you could recommend it to the board at the next meeting, and then we'd still have to have a public hearing sometime in the future to implement this. Our animal control folks think that this would really cut down on situations where they're having to try to police land that's probably not intended to be policed.
Plus they can tell these areas a little easier too.
Sure.
All right, we'll open the floor up. Mr. Barber?
I like the idea of this. I've noticed most of these designated areas are 55% or less. They're right there on the road. It's always a problem. If you get to 75, you know the majority, the true majority of that neighborhood is on board with this, because that 51% or 50.5, we've had it right at, it causes big conflicts in those neighborhoods. I've seen that. And I also like the way now it's pretty well taking care of the agriculture part of what's the one being had. The residential part was okay, the agriculture didn't. It kind of separates the two.
And if you look at our current code, we have 15 no dogs running large areas, and just off the top of my head, I think like 12 or 13 of them are named subdivisions.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, huge chunk of it's obvious, subdivision when you go in there. There's no guessing boundaries.
I had one, it was one to get one more to get the thing approved. I think it makes sense to split the neighborhood.
I have one more question I thought about the last one, I forgot. Let's say they brought up doing the water, they expand these neighborhoods or they build new subdivisions.
Right.
Can they incorporate that in their ordinance?
Your covenants,
Right,
so to
covenant,
speak.
right.
They could, but if we couldn't enforce it, I would think. that
Could
would be
they,
a civil
could they
issue.
come to us prior to building it and get it designated though?
But if they follow this procedure, they can get it, but,
No, but the developer,
Well,
they
they-
get it already done where when people moved in?
if they wanted to do that, they'd have to.
He's 100% all right.
Yeah,
Already
but
put
they would have to
subdivision.
bake it into their HOA terms.
Okay.
As I always said, I've been doing this a long time, we don't mess with fences or HOA. We don't have the authority to police them, and you.
I understand that,
Yeah.
I'm saying, if they say, we want this to.
Well, you could.
Room zone, I want to get it
The
incorporated in my.
subdivision is the number of lots, he owns 75% of the lots.
We don't
He
100%.
petitioned to have it put into
Yeah,
our.
I mean, we could-
That way it's outside the HOA.
Could he petition the board and say, all right, I want this 150 lots, and I want this ordinance in place, and we approve it, so when you bought your property, it would already have this in place?
Well, I think you probably could. It could actually be a marketing point for them.
Exactly, that's what I'm
So,
thinking.
yeah, I would cross that bridge to come to it. My initial reaction of not puzzling it out in my head is that, sure, if you own 100% of the lots, you could do that. It would be, you'd essentially be making someone else police your HOAs, but I don't see why not.
Well, most of them do it anyway,
Yeah.
but it's not enforceable, because
Sure.
it was them doing through HMA. What if they
Right.
come over and petition the county
Yeah.
and said, hey, I want to make this a no dog running large zone, and we had it, but when you buy your land, it's already incorporated, then the problem's solved. Going
I think it
forward.
makes sense. I don't think I initially would scoff at it, but we'd have to puzzle around.
Right, just food with all.
Probably easier for them to do it front than on the tail.
Exactly, instead of come back after they start, because every subdivision has this problem,
Yeah.
anywhere in the county. Half want the dogs run free, half don't, it's always an issue.
Is this something, Mr. Sides, is this something that, I know now you have to get a pre-approval for subdivision. Is this something that maybe we want to put in some kind of documentation to make them aware that they want to make it a
Running large.
run in a large restricted area, that they need to approach the board?
Well, it would be part of the subdivision ordinance, because then it would become a requirement. But it's something that in the subdivision plat review process, we
Right.
can make them aware of.
I think that's what I don't want to put it in ordinance,
Right.
because you may have somebody that says, we don't want that. But I'm saying that we need to make them aware, some kind of checklist, that, hey, this is something you need to consider if you want to do it up front.
How much is it average cost for advertisement?
Carolyn handles that for us. It varies based on character.
Yep, it's
because
depending
of
on
the-
how long, the person's address is from point A to point B, anywhere from $80 to $200 per week to run it in the paper.
And right now, we're eating this cost.
Yeah. we cover all
And
that.
what we're trying to do is, let some people, if they want this, to get some skin in the game to, attempt to do
Yeah,
that.
all right, so I was gonna speak on that. So out of the 8 bullets, I agree with 5.
Sure.
The ones that I wanted to bring up was number 4,
Mhm.
where it says the residents of the property are who we're gonna get the petition from, or is it the owners?
Right.
I feel like it should be the owners due to potentially could be a renter that's there for short term. Now we're gonna make an ordinance that's
Right.
basically there forever. And this particular person who voted may be out in 6 weeks.
Right.
I like the idea of having the owners, even though some of them may live out of state.
I thought it was already owners.
So that's what
It
we're
is.
No, but we.
But it was an option of which one do we want.
We went with one person per property. If you want owners, we just change that word to
Oh, yeah.
owners. Okay.
I agree with you on that.
But you do get in a situation where, like in your situation,
Multiple.
you had multiple
The
people
owners
who
own
own
multiple-
properties.
That's right, parcels.
Parcels.
Well, it still says in here, there's part of it that says cause of the property.
Okay, but it says, okay.
We need to-
We just need to change that person to owners right there.
You don't want some land that's tied up in an estate where you got 15 owners, you get 15 votes either.
No, we have one owner per property. is what we
They did
count.
change
Per
that.
parcel.
Yes, because we had this gray area of if it's a husband and wife, or what if you got 10 children living
Right.
with you?
You
know,
could stack the
You could
votes.
stack the votes.
Right.
So we're saying one person
Okay,
per
so-
family.
Ron, you good with that?
Yeah.
All right. Number 5
Right.
was charging the administrative fee. I will say, I do think our most recent case, Kalen had to go above and beyond, because I was thinking this particular resident maybe was limited to their abilities. So I think you've done a lot of hand-holding. Thank you for that. I, however, do not think we should charge a fee.
And we don't have an administrative fee proposed. What we have is pay us for the advertisements, and then Daryl and his people, Mr. Dalton down there, they create usually 2 dogs running large signs that they have fixed costs, and then we send a team out there to stick it in the ground. We're just gonna put a dollar figure on that to try to not make money on this, try to capture our cost of doing this.
That's fine, and I agree with the advertisement,
Right.
they should pay for that. I didn't want the extra admin.
No, we don't
fee.
have an admin fee in this.
And then the last one was number 8.
We don't have that baked in here either,
Right, I don't
because
think
we didn't know
do.
how to account for that.
Number 8 was, are we gonna charge for us to police these advertised areas, restricted areas?
Our view, that's a public service to.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote down in my notes, complaint based only.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna go out policing unless it's a complaint, then we'll arrive on the scene. Other than that, I agree with.
Okay.
That's fine.
If you agree and there are no more questions, we're just seeking, we would just seek a recommendation of the full board next meeting to,
And you said the Farm Bureau is on board with this?
This is separate.
this is separate from the.
We've already-
We already passed that one.
That was the
Okay. Yeah. And I don't know why they wouldn't, because
Uncontrolled companion.
that was uncontrolled and companion, it was a
So
start.
no changes have occurred since what they were on
No.
board with?
Yeah.
None of this stuff, okay.
So we just need a recommendation to, for the board to consider holding a public hearing at the, I guess it would be September meeting to potentially adopt this and add it to our county code.
I'll make that recommendation.
Okay. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Slum.
very much.
Moving on to item B.
Chris is happy, he gets to go on a date right now. All right, B, this is an issue that we've addressed,
In Mr. Farmer's neck of the woods
yeah,
again.
Mr. Farmer is our troubled supervisor up here, but this is, if you remember, this is the Windy Acres Nursery taxation issue, and the Mosses, and what I did, if you look at 5B, all I did was, on July 1st of this year, the General Assembly passed an amendment to Virginia Code Section 58.13505, which expanded the exemptions for personal property taxation, the categories. One of those categories exempts nurseries who create agricultural products. They exempts their machinery that they use for that. All I did was cut and pasted the Virginia Code into this ordinance. The Mosses, I spoke to them on the phone yesterday. We left out a couple words that they wanted in there. We've added those words into there. They were happy. They were satisfied. They could not attend tonight. They have asked for you to table that till they can come back. It's your discretion what you want to do. We wouldn't act on this. The soonest we could ever act on this would be, well, next Tuesday would just be a recommendation to advertise. There would be no formal action on it until after a public hearing in September. So it's up to you what you want to do. But I did speak to them. Mr. Sides was on the phone call. It was a pleasant phone call. They appreciate what we're doing. They're on board with this. They just couldn't attend before. I think they had a prior commitment, but this is what we are.
I'd personally like to make a motion we table it, because I talked to Mr. Lewis, the same thing, had conflict come here.
Okay.
Since they're the ones involved, it's Harris Nursery, Lewis Nursery, and Windy Acres. I don't see any problem with the table, letting them attend this actual discussion, but that's just my.
And the only other thing, not to throw a monkey wrench in this, if you look at the last page of this section of 5B, it's page 8. This is an email that Ms. Hammock sent to me and allowed me to put in the packet. These changes that we've made These are discretionary changes that the board can or cannot adopt. She just said, just go into this with eyes wide open. If we adopt these, you are going to see some revenue loss because it expands the definition of farm tractors to include anybody who's in commercial landscaping, logging, whatever. If you have a tractor or zero-turn mower that we're taxing now, that's going to fall off of the tax rolls basis exemptions. I don't know how much revenue that is, but she just said, just be aware that this policy will exempt some things that are currently not exempt.
I made a motion table.
Okay.
Second, kill it.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Mr. Hoy.
Gotcha.
Either way, kill it or do it.
I just have one piece of discussion before y'all vote on it in the committee.
Well, we ain't got a second. That's what I was getting at. Do we have a
Okay,
second?
Well, I thought you had a second.
I'll second that.
All right, so motion table, second, now discussion.
I would like to direct staff, if the committee is willing respectfully, to go back to Ms. Hammond and let her give us some numbers on what the impact would be being this broad a definition. I just think we need to know before we get down that path, before we open this up. All of that information, I think we need to clean it up, but let's get all the information of what it's gonna cost us.
My understanding, the state changed this thing more beneficiary to them anyway, is that correct?
They did. But
Well, how does that coincide with what she's saying? Because I heard they made it a lot different in the state level.
They expanded the local tax exemptions, but whether you adopt them locally, it's at your discretion. What I have done here is what I was directed to. I cut and pasted 1 through 10 to get as broad as possible. She's saying you have to make a philosophical decision. What do you want to do?
Well, can I piggyback on that with Bob? What happened, they changed the state, now she's saying, well, you need to be considered. That's where we got into the problem the last time, was her definition
Right.
versus the state's definition, but they changed that all, and this stuff, according to what I heard, is already.
They didn't make it mandatory for us to.
No, what I'm saying is, though,
Right.
that's where the Mosses went back and said, well, the
Yeah.
state says this, and that's when they began that match they had.
But Ms. Hammond was supposed to be here tonight. She texted and said she couldn't be here. If we table this, I think when it bubbles back up to the surface, we could have the revenue projections, and we could actually, I could meet with the nurseries in the community and see if they're okay with it. But
I think we should be responsible
Sure.
with our decision-making. However, I do not see a lot of backstepping on this one. I don't see us going backwards. But we certainly can look at the numbers.
okay.
So are you saying that if you look at number 8, you could eliminate subsection 3?
Right.
So you're taking care of the nurseries, you're taking care of the horticulture, but you're not exempting every zero-turn lawnmower.
Right. And if you read Ms. Hammock's email, she explains that, I also have included, this is a good, for edification purposes, if you look at page 7, I've included the definition of what a farm tractor is that would be exempted. And it says, farm tractor, this is from the state code definitions. It says farm tractor means every motor vehicle designed and used as a farm, agricultural, or horticultural implement for drawing plows, mowing machines, and other farm, agricultural, or horticultural machinery and implements, including self-propelled mowers designed and used for mowing.
That's every
lawns.
lawnmower in the county.
If it's used,
If it's used for commercial purposes.
So you could have a logger that has a, tractor.
Grapple, yeah.
You could have, landscaping people that have a fleet.
So Kim, is there a code in Shirley's thing that can extract this?
Not easy, but she will do it.
Okay.
I mean, she could probably give you an.
It's a business.
Not a farm.
You mean if a business has a lawnmower that mow the yard, the business supposed to be a business?
If
I don't
you
have one
use
myself,
it
mine
for
out, but I'm just saying.
No,
Not if you use it for your
If
personal.
you
Not
own
for-
Barber's Landscaping Company,
right.
we would tax you on your equipment.
Right, I understand that. But if a business.
But right
owns
now,
a lawnmower-
you could buy a tractor, and if you had a farm, you could grow some hay, and you could,
qualify.
Qualify.
Not to pay.
Will the
Well,
transfer
if
from the
you have
pet
the-
center get taxed?
Well, you
We'll
would.
factor that into our-
Well, this is how they pick it up, though.
I got tickets, but
I'm almost with Mr. Smithman on eliminating just that one line, because I think the line above says includes nursery, that's the main key word they were looking for. This was.
When we talking about businesses and these things being taxed, when a business depreciates the equipment, that's how they pick it up. So the businesses do pay taxes on it, they depreciate, they get the taxes right off on it, but they depreciate it, and that's how it's picked up for the business. And that way you don't have somebody saying, well, I'm using that lawnmower to mow around the ranch or house I live in, and you say, well, you got it on your tax
Depreciation
statement that you're depreciating it, that's how you pick it up.
So,
It's one way or the other.
so we currently have a motion to table.
Right.
Then, do we need to give direction to staff?
I think I've got direction. Whenever y'all tell me to bring this back, take it off the table, I can have Ms. Hammock here, we can have revenue numbers. If you give me forewarning, I can meet with the nurseries, make sure they're okay with this. I think now, if you do this, you might have a different subset of angry people,
Right.
but that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and it's to benefit them, it's not gonna
Right.
benefit us, so
Sure.
I'm fine with waiting.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, need a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
That's all I have. I will tell you that we have some solid waste ordinance things and some other solid waste things, but that's gonna be addressed at the solid waste meeting next Tuesday. I have nothing else.
Okay,
Are
any
there
other
yeah.
committee members? All right, consider the meeting adjourned.